Hey, welcome back, Beginning Drawing. It's Brad here. In this video, I'm gonna create a drawing that needs some help. Okay, so basically, what this is uh, a video that's here to help you with your gesture drawings. So maybe you can think about it as like, what went wrong with my gesture drawing? How can I improve my gesture drawings? So I'm gonna create a drawing based upon, you know, 10 years of seeing beginning drawing gesture drawings. Okay, so um, this may or may not apply to you and your work, but I do want to put this together because I want to show you something that kind of some of the typical or more common errors in gesture drawing. So hopefully you find this video helpful, and we'll get started right now. All right, so what happens when your gesture drawings look like this? This is something that I see a lot in beginning drawing students, gesture drawings they kind of look like after maybe their first attempt. Or, when we're in class, without me, I might give the introduction of the assignment and show them some examples and stuff. And then as I walk around, I see this typical kind of thing happen. This is a very typical result. And so, what I want to do, if your drawings are looking like this, I'm going to give you like a little critique here. This is no one's drawing. I did this myself. Okay, so I'm not picking on anyone. This is my own drawing. Okay, but I drew this based upon a lot of drawings that I've seen come in over the years, not just this quarter, but just in general. So, a couple things that might be wrong or less desirable, if you don't want to use that word with the gesture drawing, is here you can see a couple things. One, you see like a lot of little like marks, these little choppy marks. With gesture drawing, you want big, bold, sweeping lines rather than these little choppy marks or these little stabs at the paper. Okay, so that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is like and it kind of goes along with the choppy marks. Typically, what happens when you see this is the proportions generally look pretty bad, because when you're making little lines like this, it's like kind of connect the dots. It's like drawing, just like leaving breadcrumbs around, and not in a good way. I mean, you can leave breadcrumbs around if you get that analogy, but you just want to do so like more kind of sweeping, like where you can actually draw like over the top, where you can see like, I know this needs to be over here, so I can see this angle kind of here, and so you draw it lightly and you sketch lightly over these areas, and you kind of like build it, and so you can kind of see where you've been, but you see what I mean? There's a little difference there. All right, so use larger stroke arm movements when you're drawing. And then the next thing too, that I notice a lot is, all right, so sometimes there's two different errors. One, it's too much detail, like these strings. These are actually supposed to be strings. It's not just the neck of the guitar; they're the actual strings. You can't see all of these strings. I almost guarantee you might be able to see, the thicker gauge strings, right here. But you can't see like those E and B strings down here. You just can't see them. You can see, your low E, but you can't see your high E. All right, you just can't see them. They're just too small, unless you're up really close. But from a distance, if you're drawing a guitar or whatever it is you're drawing, if you can't see it, don't draw it. That's the simplest rule. You might know that they're there, but you can't draw it. Just like I know there's probably like bacteria and stuff like on my hands, like germs and stuff. I can't see. I know it's there, but I can't see it. So don't draw it. We always have filters in life, like when we're drawing stuff. Like that there's things that are beyond or whatever, but if you can't see that detail, it's really good not to include it. So only draw what you can see. I think that would be a good general rule. All right. So too much detail is a problem. Like you're trying to include too many strings. But also I think you can err on the opposite side of doing too little. So in here, it's like these strings just end. Well, where do they end? we don't even have the stop bar down here. Like, you know, like where they really end. Well, it ends somewhere down here. I don't have the guitar in front of me, but you can kind of tell like that's they got to end somewhere. So these were just like ending just in here randomly. So the neck would end somewhere right here, which is another brings me up to the other point. Draw what you see. You know, don't just make stuff up. Actually look at what you're drawing. But back to my point, my earlier point is you don't want to draw too little detail and you don't want to draw too much, or don't. So now we're on the don't draw too little. So in here there's just like there's other like, you know, there's some volume like kind of tone knobs down here, which you don't have to include. But you know, if I was doing this drawing, certainly if you're going to include like this all those strings, you'd probably include those. You could see those easily. Same with like the pick guard. You'll see like this pick guard that's in there, right? You will see the pickups in there. And so now you might not want to include all this, but you have to use discernment. You got to use your own judgment. Like how long is the drawing, etc. So, but whatever you're doing, you don't want to get like too detailed in here. So you're not like, oh, I know that there's actual little screws in here and drawing it. Don't do that, or you go, let's count each little screw. That's getting way too much detail. You can make a case for drawing these pickups. You can make a case for drawing these knobs. You can, you know, you can make a case for drawing some of that stuff. But a lot of this stuff, it's too detailed. You don't want to do that. The other thing too is a common thing that happens with a lot of gesture drawings too coming off is the proportions. I can tell people it's just getting like cartoony. So like this guitar can be like, you know, it gets like kind of cartoony more than actually like kind of realistic, for lack of a better word. So you want to make sure that you are drawing what you see as opposed to what you think you see. So, you know, in that headstock, it kind of just gets, it's just like too compromised. So really kind of look at it. Like, look at the specific shapes. Things have like specific shapes, you know, like, see how this, it's very quick. This probably didn't take all that much longer to do than that. But see how like this has shape. And you can look at, sorry, this is from memory, so I don't know if that's really good or not. But you can see like there's actual shape there. As opposed to this is just like kind of like, oh, I know there's a headstock on there. And then the last part is, and you can see it happening here, this should extend off this page. It's the neck is longer. So don't cram things in. Don't like just say, oh, I gotta fit it on here, and so I'll just, you know, end my guitar, you know, right here, you know, and make just a little ridiculous little guitar. You don't want to do that. So don't try to squeeze things in. Just let things go naturally. If they go off the page, it's fine. If they run into other drawings, that's fine. But those are just a few of the common errors that I see with a lot of beginning drawing. Now, in terms of value, we don't really do a lot of shading on here, but if you happen to like kind of, you know, throw in a little shading, as long as it's kind of quick and gestural, I think that's fine. I think that's part of it. But anyway, this is a hot mess. So if your gesture drawing looks like this, and it's I don't know, screaming out for help. Hopefully this the rest of this video will help you. I'm going to go over and you'll see me do this drawing or do a different drawing of the same guitar. Okay, so stay tuned and hopefully this video is helpful. Okay, so I'm going to recreate a drawing that I see pretty often. So I got my guitar out here, and I want to show you, this is a drawing that I kind of see a lot, you know. Let's see. For the gesture drawing, I see people kind of do this. You know, like it's very, Okay, and so this is like, I'll see this as a gesture drawing. I might start drawing the strings in or something like that. And this isn't the worst thing in the world, but this is not really what we want to do with gesture drawing. Okay, so if you turn in a gesture drawing that looks like that, I mean, I might say, you know, I think it's a good start. I think it is. But what you saw when I was doing this is like I'm making a lot of little kind of little stabs. It's like, you don't want to stab the paper, or you don't want to make these little I don't even know what else to call it, like these little stabs at the paper, like these little tentative, choppy lines. You'd rather just like have bigger kind of like sweeping gestural kind of lines, like where you kind of use like overlapping kind of little larger arm movements. See how it kind of goes around instead of just like these little tiny ones that just go around. So if your drawing was looking like this, and I said, you know, you want to use larger arm movements, this is what I'm kind of talking about. And so, you know, you want to even get into the shapes too. So it's not just going around the outline. You know, a lot of times people just want to just draw like just that contour. But that's not what we're trying to do here. I mean, contour is important, like the outside edges, the outside perceived edge that we see, that's important to include. But it's also important to include this interior shapes and trying to think of it as like building up like as a mass. So, you know, anyway, I always think like just keep it kind of sketchy. So it's like you've got like your humbuckers in here. Yeah, and so, you know, if things don't fit, you know, it's like, you know, you can just kind of like, you can sketch it out. You don't want to get too detailed. And I think that's the other thing I didn't include. In a typical drawing that like this, you might actually see, you know, like they'll like draw like kind of each, you know, machine head or whatever. and or whatever, just these little kind of details that that are good in a normal drawing. You want to add detail. I love detail, but in gesture drawing, it's more about the macro, not the micro. And so in drawing, I like, and why this is so important is because we want to like start with the macro first when we're doing drawings. That way, when we get into, when you start wanting to do more rendered, completed drawings, you will, you start with this. And so here, let me just kind of say, like, so you start with this, but then you kind of refine it, and then you get into the micro. So instead of like having like these kind of like disconjointed, like I just kind of take them all as a whole. Like you can see this, like you can see this as a line. You see that as a line. So that might be initially when you're sketching out, like what is that kind of, what's that line that kind of goes in there? And so you can kind of see, and you might not even draw this, like you just kind of go right over things. It's like, yeah, and this dips down. And so you restate, you draw right over the tops of these other lines. And so you just push those edges where you want them. You know, and it's kind of fun because then you get to like really mold this into shape. So it's not just this outline. And it's not, another thing too that I see, a very common mistake with a lot of gesture drawings is, you know, just like sloppy. There's like, okay, there's all the strings in here. Well, those don't really add a lot to it, you know. I only have 5 strings on my guitar right now anyway, so but you don't want to like add, like, you don't even see those, like, generally. It's like, you might be able to see like a couple, but, you know, and you probably couldn't even tell I was missing a string here, but I am. So, like, you can't really see those, so you don't draw them. Like, you know that they're there, but in terms of like what you actually see, you don't really see that E or B string. Like, you just don't even see them. Like, you just see, you might see this one and these two, or 3, but you don't even see those. And so you don't really want to include like every single little detail, like every little screw. It's not part of the drawing. So you want to focus on like the larger parts. So don't focus on those. Also, like if it goes off the page or something, let it go off the page. Don't like try to cram it in here, you know, like that just looks bad. It looks like a little ukulele or something. So don't do that, or whatever it is, whatever you're drawing. Don't just like squish it in to fit it on. Just let it go off the page. I think that those are be just some good advice. Some things that I kind of see that typically some errors that typically play beginning drawing students. So again, if you're going to look at this, kind of group this all as a whole. Look at this as a larger shape, right? So you can see that, like, this is just like, if you're going to go in the contour like that, this is kind of a generalized contour and just very quick, and it's not going to stay there. I'm going to reinstate. I'm going to go build over the tops of things, kind of like pull this out, push this around. I want to get in here, so you can see like this pick art, and that's what's kind of fun too. When you start drawing like these interior shapes, you'll see like, do they fit? Do they fit within your overall shape? And so then you get to kind of modify that. But if you just kind of draw like the outline of it, or whatever, or you get too focused on details, you don't have the opportunity to kind of move and to like push things around, into place. And so I like to kind of keep it kind of loose, so that way you have that freedom to make the changes that are going to be needed. So anyway, hopefully you found that that helpful, And then as time goes on, when you do these little sketches, your gesture drawings, they are good just in of themselves as drawings, but they're also the foundation for our longer, more refined drawings. And so you can build on these, all right? And then you just keep rendering them more and more, and then you can eventually kind of replace those sketchy lines with that one slow contour line, for cleaning it up. And then, you can eventually erase those, and, you add your value and shading and all that. It starts to look really good. But all of our drawings really, I feel like it's very helpful to keep it loose and gestural, and then you can start checking, proportions and things like that as you move on for more completed work. But for the gesture drawing, keep it light and lively, and expressive, and really try to get like in the body. Don't just go, or like I say in the body, because a lot of times we draw figures. But whatever you're drawing, the body of the guitar, I think it's helpful to get in here. And so even like you're drawing your pickups or whatever, you can just like scribble them in. They're just like placeholders. You can turn your charcoal or whatever you're drawing, turn it on its side. That's a good way to, you can just kind of just scribble things in. This is gesture drawing I think at its best. And you can always just, use the side of it. You can go in and draw back on top of it, bring stuff back out. We don't really erase for gesture drawing, but if you're doing like some gesture value mapping or something like that, you could kind of pull out some values, or add some like darker values here and there really quickly. So you get kind of a study of values too. But the point is, you just want to keep it expressive. All right. So it's not just like these little. That's no good. All right. No little stabs. Big sweeping motions, and it's very intentional. Look at the object. It's not just like, okay, I saw the guitar, now I can just draw it from memory. And it's like, oh yeah, it goes like this. No, you want to be looking at what you're drawing, what you're doing. So you do incorporate a little bit of blind drawing at this. So you don't have to have your head like just fixed on that and only blind drawing, but you want your head to be fixed so you can look at the object and then bounce down and look at your paper too. So you're actually looking at the object, whatever it is, the subject, while you are drawing. Okay? So hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see you next time.